Hey everyone, it's Rye bringing you episode 18 of the Learning Lekmod series. In this episode, we're going to be continuing where we left off in part 2 of the Coastal mini-series. So we're on around turn 30. We're going to be playing around until turn-ish 50, showing you some standard tradition Coastal Sim. If you're only just joining us now, I would highly recommend starting from the beginning of the playlist, which you can find in the description below. But in short, a lot of what we are talking about now was covered in previous episodes, namely worker micro episodes, city micro episodes, and then the tradition episodes by and large. There's a lot of differences, which is why we're building a specific one for Coast, but definitely if you're joining us now, definitely start from the beginning. And from here, let's just continue where we left off. If you're only, if you need a refresher, we radared an island on the top right and the top left. The top right is far closer based on our estimates. I'm recording this on a different day, so I actually don't remember where the island is. But we're going to talk about kind of when we're approaching there, some just general ideas, if it's worth it to go optics or not, and kind of some of the thought process there. Additionally, we're teching calendar, and then we're going to be going trapping into ironworking as camps are a priority here. We have a lot of camp tiles that we want to work in our capital. And then finally, we're going to be rushing a cargo ship. Actually, I kind of want to go trapping now rather than calendar, because I think what would be optimal here, thinking about it more, right, from a fresh perspective, I guess, would be if I'm able to build a cargo, send it to Ragusa. Ragusa then sends that cargo back to Cap, and then the cargo that Ragusa's building can go and feed the expand. That way we can get our cargoes up much faster, much more food than hammers, and then we can still build our stoneworks in time anyway. So let's do that. I just want to as we're playing through this, I think something very important. Something very important to understand is how there's no perfect way to play Civ. I think a lot of people are, very have this concept that perfect sim exists when, in my opinion, it doesn't. I think there's so many different ways to play the game, and the idea that that one there's always an objective right way to play is just very, very wrong in my opinion. Okay, so can we get to two? Yeah, we can. We can get one more pop there, so let's do that. Ragusa looks good. Make sure we're working all our efficient tiles. And then I'm leaving this settler in here because I want to disembark on this tile, right? So just something small. It's fine given where our settler is and whatnot. I think there's no point in risking it in any shape or form. Okay, so here I'm going to chop in Venice. Make sure that I'm growing into my iron tile. I'm growing in this city as well. Make sure I'm growing into a hill. Looks good. Kissel's not making another worker for me. That's kind of tragic, but what are you going to do? All right, and remember this cargo from Venice is going to be sent to Ragusa to then be feeding Venice because it comes up faster. All right. There is our settler. Want to stop the camp from potentially spawning a unit on this tile, so when I embark here, I can embark one here as well. So why didn't I go optics this game? Well, something that it's hard for me to explain because it's more of something that you kind of just get a feel for when you play a lot. And I know that's not a good thing to say in a tutorial guide, but it is true. When you're playing a lot of these games, you kind of understand how land forms and what standard spawns usually do. So if I radar here, you'll see there's an island. There's clearly something in this space, and then there's dark water over here. So I know the island has to be here, and based on my guess, I would guess it's probably 2 or 3 turns of moving to get to the island. And for me, 2 or 3 turns is not worth the investment that is all of optics, right? I think that's a pretty steep investment for the most part. So I think if it's far, if for a fact it's far away, right? for instance, like I know for a fact, I can't right over with this. I don't know what I'm doing. I know for a fact, like there's no path here. There's no island here. If this was the only island, right, I would definitely go optics, because this is a far walk. This is a far swim, right? Definitely something you want to keep in mind. So again, this is an educated guess. There's nothing telling me like how far or close it is, but I just, okay. I swear to God, I'm recording this on a different day, so I don't know. But you know, we can see the island there, so we'll get there within like 1 or 2 turns. All right, great. Let me go to this camp, and then I think I'm gonna chop. I'm gonna chop here. Maybe potentially a little risky for barbs, but I think again it's fairly safe risk. The camp's over here. It'd probably go to the dew instead anyway. But I think I want to chop this so that I can finish this a little bit sooner. Right, I'm 5 hammers off. There's really not a lot more hammers that I can work. So the 7 hammers here is actually going to get me at least a turn sooner. So that's the thought process there. Okay, let's move up. No barbarians. It's great. Great to see. Okay, just going to shoot the camp here. All right. We're going to send this over to Ragusa to feed our capital. Right, and I mentioned this before, but a lot of the priority when you're playing Coast is getting these fast cargoes up. Okay, perfect. All right, move this over. Right, this barb can now move over to this island, and then the worker, sorry, this worker can move to this island, and then the worker I spawn over here can start improving some of these other tiles. All right, so Ragusa, there it goes. With the chop, we get a turn sooner, as expected. Shoot that camp and feed Venice. So we're at 11.5 food. With this cargo, we go straight to 18.4, right? With modifier, we are getting so much value from building this cargo ship. Like, I really can't explain how much. Like, not only are we able to like grow a lot faster, but if we wanted to, we could unwork some of these tiles, right? Get more gold, get more culture, get more faith, whatever. In this case, I think it is worth it because it's so marginal. But yeah. Okay, let's move over here. Just kind of want to get a sense of what this island looks like. I have no reason to believe that on this hill isn't correct, but at the same time, so a cargo ship has 25 range. Is it possible that I go here? I don't think it's worth the risk of settling right away. So you could potentially have made the argument that I should have waited to move there, but it's fine. All right. Nice. So no barbs. We just got a free tech from that ruin. Cool. It's over. Perfect. One thing that I generally recommend, we're going to send this to Venice just to make sure that it's most likely in reach. We're going to start Colossus because that's the reason we went ironworking in the first place. We could definitely grow here, so move this over. Focus on growing. And then here's a good, question, right? Like, what do you prioritize here? What would you think about right now? What you would build in Ragusa, right? I'll just show you the options one more time. What would you build in Ragusa? Think about it. What calls to you, right? Remember, we're playing tradition here. What do you think is the right play? Okay, so if you've thought about it, I think this could be a number of things. With a marble cap, I think I'm leaning into a wonder, right? A library is really not going to make that big of a difference. We don't need the tech for anything. We already got our hard techs. Mausoleum is usually a pretty uncontested wonder, and we're able to buy this marble tile once we clear this camp and meet some more CS and people and whatnot. You could argue beforehand we should build a scout, right? So let's go do that. But I think I'd be thinking, okay, I need to build a wonder here in my expand. All right. One thing So that I kind of mentioned was I don't like perfect. And then watch this. So we're at 2 food. With this, we're going to go to 7. We're going to grow in just about 1 turn. Pretty good. And how many do we have? We only have 1 whale. Huh. So we're definitely going to need to buy a whale, because we're going to start growing very, very quickly. But in general, this is kind of just like the ebb and flow of what you want to be doing, right? This can go improve that to get more, you know, whatever. We're going to have monarchy very, very soon. So, you know, that'll be good. That'll help with happiness for sure. Let's move over there to this city. Prove that. Right. This should all be pretty straightforward by now, what I'm doing here. You know, I could be also, you could argue also building a worker is better, and then we could go right into anything. But right here, like, I don't think it's worth growing, right? We need to kind of focus on our sim and making sure that we're not getting any we're not hurting the growth in any of our oh my god, look, let's build a worker. All right, so I actually don't need to build this worker now. All right, that's my scout, so I can go explore here. We'll just peace kizzle because we're not getting any more workers at a relevant time. And then, you know, we have a number of workers, but we can always be improving more tiles, right? So like this deer definitely needs to get improved. There's a number of other tiles that also need to get improved. And then I'm going to go clear this camp real quick. Some, you know, very simple worker micro right there. Okay. There's some gold. Surprised we weren't given a, you know, that could have been an American worker maybe? I don't know. All right. You know, if we were happy, I would say we could definitely grow here, but it's not worth going unhappy and stopping growth in Ragusa and in Canada, so we'll just wait. And then where are we growing in terms of tiles? You know, we can improve some of these farms. Right. There's Colossus. Colossus is one of the best wonders in the entire game. Cargo ships are actually really good. And then here's some happiness for us. Great timing. And you know, this is a good question. It's like, what do you do next? Like, I think depending on how bad your land is or what your, you know, current thought process is, you can dictate, okay, just go there, let's do that. Perfect. Start growing back in here. You know, I think we could go circus here because, you know, maybe we don't have all of our luxes up. Like this whales and, you know, this whales and whatnot. So let's go do that. So, you know, this is a question like, where would you feed? You know, if Ragusa was a better city, right? If it had a bit more tiles, I would say definitely feed Ragusa. If Canandio was a better city, I would say you could feed that city. But honestly, I think this city is actually quite good. It has all these hills it can work. So we should actually be feeding this city, I think. Alternatively, you could just be feeding Cap, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think the feed Cap idea is actually quite good, and so let's. I think there's definitely an argument to be made for anything. So yeah. All right, so you know. Again, this looks pretty straightforward. At this point, I would definitely, instead of going math, I'm kind of playing mind off right here, but I would definitely be thinking about going optics to get my lighthouses up. In general, I would say Great Lighthouse isn't usually worth rushing, but if it's up at this point when you don't have a lighthouse yet, I think that's totally fine. And just for reference, like I want to reiterate, what makes Coast difficult is that every game is very, very different. You know, when you're playing Coast, especially, you have to kind of be seeing your land. Like you can't really play mind off. Like a lot of people on the coast play as if they don't have a fucking brain. They just play like aimlessly. When realistically, the thought process needed for coast is much, much harder for inland players. This is why I was like almost tempted not to do coast at all this early, because in the series, because you know, coast has so many different intricacies, which makes it difficult. There's a lot more text you need. There's a lot more different. Like the tech path, the default tech path is very, very different. So we'll go clear this camp, right? And you'll just see like our pop is exponentially increasing, at least from where it was, right? And then we can go, here, but the lighthouse after Stoneworks, right? Stoneworks is one of the best buildings. Here, you can just kind of click whatever you want. It depends on how fast you want your NC, but I've had games where I build it instantly, and I've had games where maybe I prioritize the lighthouse here because it's going to have 2 tiles to work, or maybe I do the watermill, and there's no wrong answer for sure. I think it's kind of just up to preference. But the point is, you're thinking about coast very, very similar to how you'd think about, any other tree. But the difference is there's just a lot more barriers to entry, which makes it difficult. All right, here's Axum. So we're going to have all of our Luxes up very soon. I want to get over to that marble tile. If that camp didn't spawn there, I think I would have went straight to the marble. But, oh well. So, we're still kind of playing a little bit, but I kind of want to show, like, if you compare the total pop we had on turn 50 in our inland game, and remember, this is genuinely a slow start, even by coastal standards. It's pretty slow, as some of the people who play NQ regularly could definitely attest to. I still think our pop is going to be fairly comparable to that of like a normal NQ game, or of what we had on inland, right? It's not going to be as explosive because we're playing a completely vanilla Civ and we didn't have chops in the start. But I think it is important to show the difference when you have chops versus when you don't. On the coast, like especially, your game is going to look much worse, but that's totally fine, right? We could build a wonder here. We could do whatever. Yeah. We could definitely. We have 3 Luxes to trade, so we could spawn some stuff. But I think this is a good place to call it, right? We're gonna get workshops by turn 56-ish, or yeah, about 56, 57. Depends if I can get a library up in Ragusa. And keep growing, right? Because again, growth is pop. But so this is going to be like a 56 workshops game with optics, right? This is going to be, I don't know, with this slow of a start and everything, we're still going to get universities with workshops by turn 70 flat, if I had to guess. But yeah, I hope this video was helpful. I hope you kind of understand some of the thought process that goes into coast, what you should be worrying about, how workers should be used on the coast, right? We really want to focus on improving our Luxes, improving all these tiles, making sure we're teching the right way to improve the tiles. Mines on the coast are very good in general, right? We have a lot of excess food, right? This normally has this would normally have 17 food. Or no, it's got 17 base food. We're losing 12. So, we're losing a lot of food just from being unhappy, but we're unhappy because we're playing, with AI and we don't have trades. So let me just we should have 3 trades right now. Okay. So we should have 12 food in this expand. It's still growing really fast, working a hill, right? All of our cities should be growing very, very quickly. And it's just because coast provides so much excess food, right? And that's what makes you have a really, really strong game. Is you're able to catch, like this city came down on turn 41, right? It's got a granary. It's about to build a library. It'll build, lighthouse. It'll build a library in like 4 turns after this lighthouse comes down, But I hope this kind of shows like the difficulties you can have with Coast where, if you don't have a lot of money, you're not going to be able to buy these tiles. You're not growing to them. A lot of the power of Coast is these coastal tiles, but for whatever reason, your governor just doesn't want you to have them. So, hopefully this thought process makes sense. Hopefully you can kind of see where I'm going with this. I think the power of Coast, if I haven't made it clear, is certainly in correlation. Oh, I haven't met this city-state yet. That's why I couldn't return the worker. Okay. Anyway, the power of Coast is certainly in the cargo ships as they let you catch up to the game. But I just want to point out, Coast is weird because when you play Coast, your civ is overloaded. And I mentioned this in the last video, but you're playing super strong civs relative to like Coast itself, right? If they were not coastal civs, they'd all be probably S tier. But because they're coastal, they're kind of at a disadvantage just naturally. Because you lose a lot of tempo, you lose a lot of win cons, whatnot. This would be a phenomenal game to play like aesthetics on or something, right? Because unless the America player like comes up here, and if they do come up here, we could just kill them at like planes or bombers and whatnot. But we have two CS to send trade routes with. The point is, there's a lot of different options you have, right? Coast is more about the total food that we should be looking at rather than the total hammers. Because hammers come naturally, but the food is really what's going to keep your game going. Hopefully this made sense. Hopefully you've learned something. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. In the next video, we're going to talk about potential build orders and, where to go from there. So thanks everyone for watching. Stay tuned for the next time, and I'll see you soon.